Welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to another brand new edition of Geek to Me Radio. Tonight, we have Carl Newman, the man in the bat suit, joining us to talk about his role as Michael Keaton's movement double in Batman '89. After that, we'll be talking with Eisner-nominated writer Phillip Kennedy Johnson about his current run on The Incredible Hulk and more. Stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
Driving around the greater St. Louis area tonight, listening to us on the Big 550 KTRS. Hello to all of you. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you're streaming us out there in the world on the KTRS app or on the KTRS website, thank you very much for doing just that. If you're watching tonight, guess what? Joey V's in the studio, so we have video. So for those of you watching on YouTube and on Facebook, and as I say that, I'm going to go to the comment section now so I don't miss the comments. Hello to all of you, and thank you very much for tuning in there. I see we've already got Shannon in the chats. BK, hello to you down there in Cartersville. Appreciate both of you there in the chats already. This is going to be a full show. I had the interview with this gentleman earlier today. He's not with us live, unfortunately. There was a big kerfuffle with the time difference because he's over in the UK. Bad communication on my part. He misunderstood some stuff. Long story short, we do have an interview with him, and we're going to play that for you right this very moment. Right now, we're joined by Carl Newman, the man in the bat suit from 1989. Still one of my very favorite Batman films of all time. Carl, I appreciate your time.
It's an absolute pleasure, James, to be here. It really is. And I'm so thrilled to hear it's your favorite.
Yeah, I mean, it's the one everyone says, what's your first Batman film? That was mine. I mean, that's the one that came out in the theaters, and I begged my parents to take me to see it. Luckily, my parents took me to see a show and didn't end up getting killed like Bruce Wayne's parents did on the way to his show. So it turned out well for me. But I know I've seen the story online. I've seen you talk about getting this particular role as Michael Keaton's motion double. Talk a little bit about how this happened for you for our listeners who might not be familiar.
Yeah, well, what had happened was that they started off with Michael and the original stunt guy. And they did, I think, a couple of weeks or whatever. And Tim just felt that there was something still missing very much from their sort of partnership. And I got a call from, being a professional dancer, I got a call from my dance agent to say, look, they're looking for a guy to be Batman, to bring this lovely movement to the character. And so that was when I initially went to see the first assistant director at Pinewood Studios. And then later on, they called me again to do a suit fitting. And that was, the moment where the suit just fitted so well. And I felt $1 million, I really did. And then Tim asked for me to come on to the set and show him what I could do. And that's when I just sort of threw myself around. But that's kind of how that all happened. And then, they just kept being very sort of cagey almost in a way about giving me a huge contract. They just gave me like a couple of weeks, and then they would kind of reinitiate that contract and give me more weeks. And I ended up doing 11 weeks on the movie.
And, I think of all the movements, because that's one of the ones I must have seen 1989 Batman, 30, 40 times since it's come out. And I can picture the movements vividly in my mind, both of the big fight scene in the bell tower. Yes. And then obviously all of his movements in the fight when he first saves Vicky Vale from the museum. So obviously yes, there are stuntmen doing some of this as well. They get the close-up shots of Michael Keaton. So kind of, if you could walk me through the fight scene right after he saves Vicky Vale from outside the museum and the Batmobile puts up its shields. How much of that was you? What portions of it were you? What portions of it were Michael, etc.?
Well, I'll just rewind a little bit from there, because the reason being is that I initiated the movie from the off. So, when the sort of muggers have hit the family, as it were, and they're on the rooftop, going through the sort of cash and the American Express, etc. Don't leave home without it. I was the one who did the gliding.
Okay.
So I think it's important to say that, because that's a key moment in the movie where I do the gliding, where they're unaware that I've made this presence. And then there's a bit of a crunching sound where the guys look up, and then I open the cape and sort of fly down to them. And then Michael just sort of lifts his cape and flaps it down, and then it's when there's the sort of the kick to one of the muggers. So that's a real key moment for me. But really, in the museum, I didn't do so much initially. What was key for me there was that when Batman says to Vicky, get in the car, and she says, which one? And then they go to the Batmobile. I do that lovely sort of seamless jump into the Batmobile, which you can imagine in full regalia is extremely, difficult really to make it very seamless and all the rest of it. But other key scenes were very much Axis Chemical Company doing that lovely run and cape swish on the rooftop. And in the bell tower as well, there was the one where we're coming out of the Batwing crash, and that sort of intercuts between me and Michael sort of getting out and then pushing the cathedral doors open. But then there's a lovely sequence through the bell tower where I'm coming out of the trapdoor, and then there's the goon, that Lawrence, that tries to sort of jump and capture me, but falls through the floorboards. But there's loads of stuff sort of interspersed, if you like, throughout that. And of course, I get the magnificent bat signal sequence at the end of the movie. So there's an awful lot going on.
Wow. And I think about that, people think, oh, that looks like so much fun. But I think I've seen you in other interviews say that bat suit weighed a lot. That was not a light costume. It's not spandex. It's leather. And I assume some features to kind of help it move a little bit with guided by you. But, at the time, if I'm not mistaken, I think you're about 12 years younger than Michael Keaton.
Yes.
And so I'm assuming they kind of also needed a younger guy. Not that Michael wasn't capable, but the fact that it's a lot for someone to take on, and the younger person obviously would be able to do that better. And then, as I mentioned, you're a trained dancer. You're trained to move in certain ways.
Yes. I think also, for me, it was the greatest costume to ever have worn. So for me, I never found it, and I'm not just saying it to impress anyone, but I never found it a problem, a sort of a cumbersome, restrictive suit. I just took it all on board. I thought, wow, this is just the most amazing costume. I felt like I was invincible. I could sort of, fall off one of the buildings in essence and not hurt myself. And really, bringing alongside of that was very much my athletic training. So, when you sort of mention a dancer, you're not dancing the costume. The thing about a dancer is that they know how to work with their limbs, their facility. They know how to hold themselves, how to be very sort of upright and proud and the kind of traits that you want for a Batman is that you want someone that exudes that sort of lovely stance and superhero stance, and that isn't sort of sagging or looking awkward. You're gliding, you're flowing, and so that's where, if you like, my attributes were able to come into the fore of the character. And, I was given a chance as well to utilize some other skills, which was where I could show the goons how to do mine for the Vinnie Ricorso assassination scene. So that was another thing, if you like, another feather in my cap, was to do that. But it was just really having that beautiful opportunity to say, yeah, this is all in my arsenal, what I can do.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
the fact that there was four guys in the suit, you know, we were all able to marry those skill sets together and make the character seamless, make Michael look even, you know, just more amazing.
right. I mean, it's you know, again, as a kid watching this movie, I'm like, wow, Michael Keaton did a lot of moving around. But at the time, as a child, you're not cognizant of stuntmen and choreographers
No.
and dance people and movement doubles and things like that. No concept. So I'm like, wow, Michael Keaton's really cool. He can do all this stuff. So kudos to you because you did a great job making him look good.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, if you like, it was everything I could have wished for because, you know, as a dancer, I mean, they are comedians, really. They're able to do a whole variety of genres and sort of styles, you know, whether it be film, television, commercial video, whatever you want to say. They're able to come in. I mean, I was someone that I'd get a call from the agent. You know, they'd say, Carl, we want you to do, it's a bit surreal here, we want you to do a tango on the back of a horse-driven cart going through war-torn Britain for a movie. And I'd say, yeah, that's me. I'll do so, you know, you just can do pretty much anything, really, in all honesty. And so I think what I'd love to be remembered for is creating a movement language for Batman where, you know, and it's not me just saying it, but even the second unit director said, you know, no one could have done it better than you, Carl. You know, that suit, you made it flow, you just made it seamless. And not even the stunt guys could move like I could. So, you know, that's for me makes me very proud to know that I was the only one, if you like, that made that fluidity, you know, that fluid movement.
I know during different scenes, and this is across the superhero genre, there are different sizes and types of capes depending on the shot that the director wants to get. For what your purposes were, obviously, we mentioned the scene at the beginning when you lift up your cape at the two muggers on top of the roof. Did you have a couple different suits that you used throughout the movie, or was it basically down to one or two?
Well, really, I was never aware. I mean, when people said to me, oh, Carl, you wore a different size cowl with shorter ears in the Batmobile when you did that jump in the Batmobile, I was not aware of that. And that's not me being stupid or anything. I mean, I'm very observant, but I think you're in the moment and you're not someone who's looking at something and asking dimensions. You're actually, you've been suited up, you're ready to go, and the adrenaline sort of pumping, and you're watching sequences yourself to get a feel for where things are. So as far as I was aware, yes, there was the hero suit that Michael wore, and that his suits were more immaculate until the Batwing crash, etc. But ours still had to be very, very good. And I just literally got in it, and that was it. I was good to go, and I just loved that. I never really studied things too much. It was, you can imagine. I mean, that they say that was the biggest set since Cleopatra. I mean, Michael Usman has said this in during an interview. You know, Ben-Hur, those wonderful epics that we so enjoyed, and I think really yes, the Pinewood backlot was huge.
Yeah.
So you can imagine, you know, you're there, and I worked at Pinewood before on a couple of other jobs, but this was the biggest, if you like, and I was more involved here. And I was just taking it all in. I was watching the lighting, the special effects. You know, there was a time when Prince came in. I tried to start a conversation with him, but there was all these things bubbling around. You know, people trying to get in to see the film. You know, so because it was the movie of that time.
Absolutely.
I mean, the biggest since Star Wars and also Raiders of the Lost Ark. So I was very much in that moment and not really observing, you know, okay, this tape's a bit shorter than the other one or whatever. It didn't feel that way to me anyway.
And to your point, yeah, this was a cultural phenomenon because that really kind of kicked off the Bat craze, the Bat mania. that swept the entire world. Really, I was going to say country, but I mean, it was worldwide and really kind of brought a Batman renaissance back. This was for his 50th anniversary. And here we are now. This is the 35th anniversary of Batman 1989. And we're in the 85th anniversary year of Batman, which is mind-boggling to think it was 35 years ago already that this movie came out.
I know. It is like you say, it's mind-boggling. I can't believe it myself. And I think this longevity just proves that that was a real masterpiece. I mean, I know there can be people who could pick a little sort of, not a flaw, but something here because of the time when it was filmed and the advances that have been made now. But I still think, and I know, not just say it stacks up now if you watch it again, which I have done. I've seen it twice recently, which was of the Batman Live with the Philharmonic Orchestra, the Symphony Orchestra, and then also I saw it as a double feature with the Flash. And they hadn't got the full ending at that time, but they also had Michael doing a Q&A as well at this cinema. But yeah, I mean, I saw it again, and it was refreshing for me to hear the younger audience getting so into it, especially Jack Nicholson as the Joker.
I'm curious how closely you got to work with Michael Keaton, because I would think if you're his movement double, you'd want him or the director or Anton Furst or somebody would want Michael to kind of keep in the same vein of movements that you've been doing for these wide shots. I would assume that there would be some time where you'd work with Michael and say, hey, here's how I turn when this is happening. Was there any collaboration between you and him directly with Anton Furst or with Tim Burton or anybody like that?
There was... to answer your first question, James, I worked very closely with Jack, Kim, and Michael, and there's a scene in when that wonderful scene where he's driving in the Batmobile and Vicky's in there and she's getting freaked out with all the the sort of this star winding road, etc. And then I do a sequence in the Bat's cave with her getting out of the car and then going through the labyrinth of the Batcave up to where the screens are. But with Michael, we were very, very close, and we were around. I mean, we should have intentionally, it should have been made that we had that time to sort of converse and say, look, I'll follow that. I think it just happened naturally, if you like, that we were all there together. So, for instance, when there was the Batwing crash, we emerged. Michael would be there doing a bit, and then Michael would move away slightly, and then I would do a piece. So I think it was almost done by osmosis, like organically, that there was just that feeling that you could pick up from wherever. And I think Tim was covering himself as well with his direction. And I think there was also the feeling that, and I've told this to other people, that I was doing so much that I think they were very wary that it might take away too much from Michael in a way, that they had to try and balance it.
Yeah.
Because I know in some sequences I've been told I should have done and I didn't do. There was one in question where Michael gets Vicky out of the Batmobile and then they run down the alleyway, and I was told I should have done that. But I think it's this thing of trying to be fair to Michael as the star, and also sometimes with the stunts. I mean, I was verging on stunts really on the Axis Chemical rooftop. There was other things I could have done, but I think politics and everything, they wanted to make sure that, they had enough as well, and then I had enough, and it kind of balanced out. But really, there's a lot more of me than people realize.
And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that was you when you have the wide shot after the Batmobile is just blown through excess chemicals and the Joker's in his helicopter shining the light down. That's you who does that kind of turn up to the Joker's copter as well, yes? With the big cape flourish, which was, again, I can picture that shot in my mind easily. It was so well done.
Oh, thank you. I mean, that was another one. I was seeing all these posts going on social media saying, oh, Keaton's just incredible at this, and I was thinking, actually, that was me. And this is why this whole thing, James, is so incredible. I mean, we'll get to it in a moment, but it's the fact that I've been this unsung hero for so long that I think, in a lot of ways, with the guy that did the martial arts in the movie and along the way, I think my name or my involvement got buried along the way, which was so wrong. And it's just been like, wow, you're the missing link, Carl. You're the guy we've known about, yet we didn't realise you did so much. So all this now is like incredible, because it's blowing people away, and it's also making me feel a lot better as well.
I can imagine.
But for so long, I mean, it was just hidden.
Yeah.
And I think what really set it off as well was during COVID, and I started seeing my image and hearing my name mentioned an awful lot through the social networking, and I think, hang on a minute, I need to get more involved with this.
And one of the lovely things that's happening, especially now if you're listening to this and you're in the greater St. Louis area, this is really cool because Carl's going to be making not one, but 2 appearances. And this is coming up the weekend of October 19th and 20th. On the 19th, he will be at the Hero Complex, which we've had those guys on the show, the owners, and they're fantastic people. If you haven't been out there to check it out, they're on Youngerman Road. It's a really, really cool area. So he'll be there from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. on the 19th. And that's courtesy of our friend Chris McQuillan at Toyman Toy Shows. And then St. Charles Comic and Toy Show on the 20th. So you get 2 chances that weekend to meet Carl. Bring in your Batman 1989 merch. He'll get some stuff signed. I'm assuming you've got pictures and everything that they can have you sign if they don't have their own material.
Absolutely. We've got some real incredible stuff there, which Bobby has organised, some limited edition stuff. Tim Shin, the amazing artist that worked under Neil Adams, he's done a special commission piece for me, which was an incredible scene. It was a deleted scene, which was so sad, and it was replaced by animation, but it had me crouched amongst the gargoyles on the top of Gotham Cathedral, and that's the most beautiful piece of artwork, and there'll be lots of incredible pieces for people to get involved with.
And if I'm not mistaken, I thought I heard someone say you'll be in a screen-worn or screen-used Batman suit at one of these events, or both of them.
Yeah,
or
I mean, if not both, I mean, I'm sure we'll try and do both for everybody. But it's been done by the top maker in America. He's followed everything from the original. And in fact, I did wear it a couple of times for some photo shoots here. I did one earlier this year and then 2 years ago, and it's amazing. It's just so good to get that suit back on again. It's so iconic.
Carl Newman, it's been an absolute pleasure and my honor. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, James. Honestly, my pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you very soon.
There he goes. Make sure you check out those events. Put those on your calendar. Once again, that was October the 19th at the Hero Complex here locally. Carl Newman will be there in his screen-used Batman outfit, taking pictures, signing autographs. And then on the 20th, that Sunday, he'll be at the Steel Shop in St. Charles. They're actually bringing in a 1989 Batmobile for you to get a picture with Carl in his bat suit. So if you're a Batman fan, that's a not to be missed event. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to come right back. We've got Phillip, Kennedy, Johnson on deck waiting to talk to us. We'll get to that and more. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio on the Big 550 KTRS. Please stand by.
Leader! Wrecker the Demolisher to the rescue!
Ideal's new RoboForce. Warrior robots with gripper bases and crusher arms, each sold separately.
Hundreds escaping!
Okay in there?
Okay, Dad! But we won't be safe till we're rid of Hundred.
Hundred the Conqueror, Max Steel the Leader, Wrecker the Demolisher, each sold separately. New from Ideal's RoboForce.
Long ago at Rose Petal Place, Orchid met Nastina, the evil spider. Dolls sold separately.
Oh no, Orchid! It's Nastina! Wait till I tiptoe through your tulips, Rose Petal. Watch out, Nastina! The sky is falling! I won't fall for that! Gotcha! That'll keep her in her place.
Rose Petal, Nastina, and Orchid dolls come with all you see here, each sold separately. New from Canada. It's Kinner's Seaweeds Tropicals. Camille, Baby Cascade, and Pelly Pelican. She's tan. Has
Copyright 2024 Bank of America N.A.
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Welcome back to Geek to Me Radio, heard here every Sunday night on the Big 550 KTRS. Thank you for those of you streaming us out there on YouTube and Facebook as well. We're glad to have you. This segment and the show really brought to you by the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. You know the website, discoverstcharles.com. Anyone who's listened to the show knows they've been with me since the beginning, the very first people to sign on. I've had a very great working relationship with the city of St. Charles, and their Convention and Visitors Bureau does incredible work. We're in October, folks. That means Legends and Lanterns, their big Halloween festival, is coming up the last 3 weekends of October. You can go down there and you can talk to Lizzie Borden. You can talk to the Brothers Grimm will be down there. Mary Shelley. You can find out how she wrote Frankenstein. They'll have ghost tours going around as well. You can learn about the legend of Sleepy Hollow. Ichabod Crane's actually running around down there. You can sing karaoke with the Phantom of the Opera. You can fight the monsters with the Angry Villagers. It's a lot of fun, and this is a free event. This is free, so bring your family down. Check out St. Charles at Halloween time. You can take place in the Pumpkin Glow, in Scarecrow Glen, all the cool things they've got going on in the city of St. Charles. And again, as I always love to point out, the entire area that's made up of small, locally owned businesses up and down North and South Main. So when you're going there, when you're buying a shirt from Chuck and Lou, or when you're having dinner at Magpies, these are all small family-owned businesses. And in this economy, it's never been more important to support small businesses. So whether you're on the East Coast, like Phillip, who we're about to bring on, or maybe you're here locally, you're over in Afton, Illinois, just haven't made it across the bridge in a while, check them out. Start your trip at the website, discoverstcharles.com. Again, discoverstcharles.com. As we always say, it's an historically good time. Right now, welcoming to the first time to the show, Phillip Kennedy Johnson, Eisner-nominated writer. He's been doing fantastic work on some of my very favorite superheroes, and I'm very pleased to have him on the show. Thanks for your time tonight.
Of course, man. Good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. I want to start out by saying I've loved your stuff that you're doing on the Hulk. It almost feels like it picked up right from the Immortal Hulk run. That I love that run as well. But I feel like we're getting back to the Hulk's horror roots, that like the Tales of Suspense, the early stuff that happened. Talk a little bit about how you got attached. Was this something you pitched, or was it something that you wrote that had Marvel say, "Hey, we want you on the book"?
They came to me about it. I was actually I'd been doing Alien at Marvel for a couple of years, and was having an awesome time on it. I love those films. I love those fan of geekers art, and just the movie. Of course, the Dark Horse comics. But I really hurting for bandwidth. Actually, I was juggling it. I got 3 really strong, great artists and great fan response. I think I should step away while they still want me to. Yeah. You know? So I was like, I've got up, and they're like, "Oh no, we're so sorry to hear that." And I like around that same time, like that same week, they were like, "Hey, you got damn, I gave, because I was, so I don't know. I think I might have to do that book." So I thought about, and I put together a pitch for it. The most challenging part of taking that job was how do I not of what Al had been doing on Immortal. I love. Yeah. Hulk book was incredible.
I'm gonna. So pause. I'm sorry. I'm gonna pause for just one moment. I'm closing some of my windows out here. I feel like we're getting a little bit of a chop on your audio. So let me real quick. Here's what we'll do. If you're listening right now, we're going to take a real quick commercial break. I'm going to reset something on my board because we're just getting a little bit of a chop, and I don't want the audience to lose anything here. So we're going to take a very, very quick commercial break. We're going to come right back, and we'll get the audio to you fixed. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio. Please stand by.
We're going abroad for the first time in years. To Spain. So we started using Babbel.
And started learning Spanish fast.
With Babbel, you can start having conversations in another language in just 3 weeks.
¿Cómo te llamas? ¿Cómo te llamas?
When you learn a language.
Well, they're the mop tops, the Play-Doh mop tops. Just turn the chair.
They grow Play-Doh hair.
They're the mop tops.
You can comb it, wave it, style it, or shave it. The Play-Doh Mop Tops.
You can let it grow down to his toes.
There's a Mop Tops
From the Play-Doh Mop Top
Hair Shop. The Play-Doh Mop Top Hair Shop, sold with everything you see here. New from Kenner.
Here's Sit and Spin from Kenner.
You can spin around, sit around, even carry it around. Let's go inside. You can spin some more, like before, most anywhere you put it down.
Sit and Spin, the indoor-outdoor take-along spinning toy.
Wow! You can spin like one, spin like two. How you spin is up to you.
Sit and Spin, you put it together. From Kenner's Discovery Time.
I love nuzzling up to you, Wind Whistler. You're so soft. So soft, my little pony. My little pony is so soft to touch. I love the way you feel, my so soft pony.
Paradise.
So soft,
Shady. Wind Whistler. Ribbon. Lofty. Each sold separately.
You're so soft.
So soft, My Little Pony. Shady and other So Soft ponies sold separately from Hasbro.
Supernatural! Now you can join the battle between brave Lionheart and evil Skull and their eerie ghostlings.
Lion, you're dying. Now, Master.
They change to fight with ghostly might. Turn them into the light and they change into even more powerful creatures.
Now, the lion in me is free. Take this.
Supernaturals. Lionheart, Skull, and Ghostling sold separately. New from Tonka.
H-I-T-S-T-I-A. Drumsticks and an amplifier too, but you don't need drums to make these sounds. It's true. Hit six. Hit six. Play 'em in the air. You can play 'em anywhere. That drives you crazy and you're about my tune. Hit six. One and only hit.
And Captain Carson Tabor on The Mandalorian, and I am thrilled to be here on Geek to Me Radio. Okay, see you.
All right, we did a workaround on the audio. We got it figured out one way or the other. We still have Phillip on the phone with us right now. Phillip, sorry about the little bit of an issue. We appreciate you bearing with us through that.
No, it's no problem. Sorry for the janky tech situation here.
No problem at all. So we were talking about you getting attached to Hulk. And you said it was right after you were on Aliens. They came to you, and then that's when I started to lose part of it. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of giving that again.
Yeah, sure. Well, I had to give up Aliens just because I was doing too much at the time, and I had three really good arcs I was super proud of, and rather than, I don't know, like it was starting to feel more like work to figure out what the next story was going to be. Whereas like usually the best stories are just crawling up your throat, just demanding to be told, you know? So, rather than, I don't know, like I was already kind of hurting for time to do my best. But after I gave it up, they came to me and was like, "Hey, would you want to do Incredible Hulk now?" And I mean, they didn't say that they wanted, by the way, can you hear me okay? Like audio okay now?
Yeah, no, you sound great. It just if you have the mute button on your computer, because I'm getting a little bit of feedback, but the other, I mean, you're.
Oh, really? It's muted right now.
At all, and you right now.
Okay, it's muted. All right. So yeah, they were like, "Would you want to do Incredible Hulk?" And I have to assume that they knew what they were asking for when they came to me with that. Like it's like, okay, like this is going to be a horror book if that's cool. Because I mean, Donny Cates had been writing Hulk before that, and it was not so much of a horror thing anymore. I was like, man, if they let me do this book, I was like, how do I not just do more of what Al Ewing was doing? Because I love what Al did on Immortal Hulk.
Yeah.
So the hard part was just figuring out how not to just copy Al, you know, like, so I just kind of sat with it and figured out what the influences would be. And at first I was really thinking a lot about books like Immortal Hulk and Planet Hulk and like the runs that I consider some of the best ones from the series. But also I started thinking about other books. Like there's this retelling of Beowulf by Rubin and Garcia that I really admire. And I thought that would be a great way to start. It's like that's a monster book too, of course. Also, the Hellboy series. I'm a hella fan of that whole series. I've got all the library copies of all that stuff. And library editions, I should say. I didn't actually steal the library books, but I love that series. And especially The Crooked Man is the one that really sticks it and is really like on my mind all the time. That book is just so hauntingly beautiful, ironically, because it's not Mignola's art, but he wrote it and had Richard Corbin's art. And it looked so, I mean, that book just looks like the South. I love how creepy it makes the Southern Gothic stuff look while also still staying true to that place. And having gone to school there myself, I just had a lot of affection for that area. So, I mean, slowly, the seeds for my own Hulk take kind of came together, where I wanted to do this thing that's based in this, like, largely in the American South. The man on the road kind of set up like you get from the old TV show. But I also wanted to see Hulk as more of like the monster of the movie, you know. So that's what we're doing. We're just making the setup in issue 1 was just the monster of horrors and eldest setup that kind of makes Hulk this lightning rod for all these monsters from all around the world. And now, like, there is an umbrella kind of arc that we're telling that, you know, to give the whole thing direction and to help flesh out the characterizations of Hulk and Banner. I thought it was important to bring in, since Hulk and Banner are very rarely in the same space together, I thought it was important to bring in another character that would have a very different relationship with Hulk than she does with Banner. And so that introduces the character named Charlie, this young girl who follows him around. And you know, Hulk is like her hero, and she kind of looks down on Banner. It makes this really interesting kind of hate triangle relationship with everybody that it's just really fun. Man, I wish I could inundate you with spoilers for what's coming, because that whole relationship is about to change a lot, and I'm really stoked. Issue number 19 that drops in about a month and a half. That is Legacy Hulk 800.
Yeah.
And we went big on that one. Like it's got extra stories. It's got a couple of short stories in the back as well. And it changes the status quo quite a lot for all the characters. So I'm over the moon excited for you to see it. And Nick Klein he's doing the Lord's work on that book, man. Like, the art is so incredible on that story.
Yeah, the brief thing you had where we had, again, I'm trying not to spoil stuff for people who might not be current, because for me, for example, I have a huge long box full of back issues that I'm meaning to get to, but Hulk is one of the titles I keep up on regularly. I cannot wait for it to come out each month. And
thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and what happened to Charlie in New Orleans was like, oh my gosh, I've such affinity for the city of New Orleans and the whole voodoo, everything that goes on, and the cultural richness of that city, and the way you tied into all that with what ends up happening to Charlie at that point in the book was bone chilling. I absolutely loved it.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, when I found out that when I found out that Danny Earls was going to be doing that book, he is so amazing with environments. You know, like he brings so much atmosphere to everything he does. When I found out that Danny was going to be doing that issue, actually, I changed the setting a little bit, put it in New Orleans, because I knew he was going to make that book just sing, man. So yeah, I'm really proud of those issues. So yeah, that whole thing that was set into motion in that arc, where, you know, that whole thing was Frozen Charlotte. I guess I shouldn't spoil it for people who haven't read it yet, but that all kind of comes to a head in issue 19, and then we start our next chapter of this series. So I'm really excited about it.
It's fascinating because there's so many different things that have been done with the Hulk over the years, and that the stuff that you know previously was done in Immortal Hulk, and the stuff you're doing now feels like just this brand new life has been breathed into the title. It's not the same Hulk smash where, you know, people might be used to or associated with them. It's this completely different take where there's an intelligence, but also a ferocity and a brutality that we haven't seen to the Hulk. So when you're writing something like this particular story arc, how do you find the characterization? What do you kind of draw inspiration from? How are you finding the, I guess the motivation, not motivation is the wrong word, to write the Hulk as you are for this?
Man, I don't see Hulk, like the Hulk in this story, like to call him a hero is kind of overstating it. He's not setting out to save the world or to even save anyone until he gets a chance to get really close with Charlie. And then he does actually set out to help her because he's become attached to her. But generally, he just wants to be left alone. and then he does good things. Like, people are helped in the course of the series, but like almost by accident. Like, he's, like there's Walking the Road, and these guys take him in, and he goes and stays on like in the War Devils arc where you see Ghost Rider 44.
Yeah.
There's like this migrant community that takes him in, and they kind of, they all kind of get chummy. And then he smashes the monsters that come along, but he didn't go there to save them. He just happened to be there in the right place, the right time when the monsters came. Because again, he's become this lightning rod for these creatures that we're, for the most part, inventing for the Marvel Universe. Like, most of these characters, most of these monsters are new. And he's like, they're just drawn to him, even if they don't know that they are. Like, they just tend to pop up wherever he goes, Like, so in some cases, like the case of the Swamp Witch, there are things that have been asleep under the ground for a long time that are awakened by his presence because Eldest has demanded it. So yeah, it's, there's actually a moment from one of the movies that stuck with me. It was the Ed Norton Hulk film where he's, in Brazil, I think, just trying to be left alone, and they find him and they come for him. And there's this moment where he's getting, even then he's trying to run. He just wants to get away. And then he starts to transform, and he's in that bottling plant. And like I want to say one of the agents gets like pulled into the shadows and then like thrown back into the others or something. And you just hear this rumbling. And the first time I saw the movie, I didn't even recognize that it was dialogue. It sounded like just this grumble sound, but he said, "Leave me alone." And that moment kind of sums up this version of Hulk for me, where he just wants to be left alone. It's like, I'm the strongest one there is. I got nothing to prove. Just leave me alone and I won't kill you.
Yeah.
But they just won't leave him alone. He's hounded either by the feds or by the Avengers or by these monsters now. He just wants to be left alone. That's all he wants. And then when he has to actually do something, he has to smash something or save somebody, he kind of gets annoyed. Like, there's a moment at the end of the Blood Hunt tie-in issue. I really wanted that issue to still feel like part of our arc. I didn't want it to be a thing that I didn't want it to be a distraction from what we were doing. I wanted it to belong with the Blood Hunt event, but also to belong with what we were doing in the Incredible Hulk series. So we kind of mapped out where he was going to be and made a story that made sense. At the end of that, spoilers, it's a vampire story. It's a part of the vampire event. And at the end, this vampire, like the mother of this character who has been a vampire for a generation or something is about to turn to ash. And she says something like, I just wanted him to have a better life. Did he? Did he have a better life? And Hulk says, how should I know? And she turns to dust, and then he walks away. And that's kind of who he is. Whenever he's talking on screen, I want him to use the absolute least amount of dialogue possible. I never write 8 words of dialogue where 6 will do. And I never write 6 where none will do. Yeah. Like, he's speaking very, very little. That's important to me for that characterization. Like, when I'm also inspired in part by the first Conan movie, Conan the Barbarian. I thought that Conan was most intimidating when he wasn't really speaking, or when he hardly spoke. And I thought that was one of the things that kind of ruined the reboot. When they brought out Momoa to do Conan, he looked the part, he looked great. But then he talks, and he just kind of sounded like a bro.
Yeah.
And it just didn't have the same kind of, he didn't have the same kind of gravitas that Conan did. Like when that Arnold did when he was speaking, he spoke very little. And when he did, the words mattered. And I don't know, it just made him feel so much more badass.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, so I guess sorry for this answer that's kind of going all over the place, but it's it's just I guess I have a lot of different influences from all over media too. Like, most of the influences are not actual Hulk stories.
Yeah, and that's that's all the other stuff that you see blended in. It kind of makes sense, and I think that's one of the reasons this Hulk series is being so well received. I know a lot of people I've talked to said, yeah, this is maybe the first time they picked up Hulk in a while, and it's not what they expected, and they actually really enjoyed the book. So I'm glad that so many people are finding it, and it seems like the sales are going well, obviously.
Yeah, thanks. It's been a lot of fun, and they let me have the at the end of every little arc. Well, I wanted to make it feel like the old Marvel team-up books. Like, I had a lot of, well, not a lot, by by the standards of most of my friends in comics. But I had actually a pretty modest collection when I was a kid. But I just had like a few little stacks of comics. But I had a lot of Marvel team ups in there with Spider-Man teaming up with some no name.
Yeah.
Or sometimes sometimes big characters too. I think there was a Ghost Rider one and a Doctor Strange one, and let's see, there's one with Black Widow. There was one with Johnny Torch. Yeah, there were some big ones. Sometimes there would be a lesser known character, and that's kind of how I learned the Marvel rosters through those Marvel team up books. But I did not have a lot of consecutive comics. Like mostly it was just these little one-offs, and they're all ripped up. And whenever I had a couple in a row, it was amazing. But it made me really value having just a one and done comic book where the whole thing was in that issue, or maybe just a 2-issue thing where whenever I had two that connected, and I got a comic story that was like twice as long. It was such a big deal. What I'm trying to avoid is a series where you have to have the whole damn thing to make any sense of it. As a kid who did not have a lot of comics and who just, whenever I had a complete story, it was a big deal. I wanted to try to put as many complete-ish stories as I could throughout the series. Just give them constant jumping on points. And I try to end every one of those little arcs with a little prose page for people who wanted more, because there's never enough time to put all the lore in there that I want to.
Sure.
So they let me, because I do all this backstory on the monsters I'm introducing, they let me do these pages that I've called the Remembrances of Eldest, where after Hulk has beaten somebody into the ground, we get a page of prose that talks about where that creature came from. Like it's history that we didn't have time to show in the comics page,
Yeah.
So that's been really fun. And it's that between that and the fan questions, like there's always a fan mail page as well. Those are just really fun little add-ons that they let us do in this book.
And kind of shifting gears a little bit, we talked a little bit before we brought you on air. My favorite superhero of all time is Batman. And you've been writing Batman and Robin now for a while. I think you said that's coming to an end, though. That series is coming up to an end. You got the final issue coming out. Is it this coming week on Wednesday?
No, well, this week is the final issue of my creator-owned series, Crocodile Black.
That's okay. So
yeah. It's just a 5-issue series, but it's a crime noir story that I've been doing. That is also kind of a horror story. I'm kind of afraid that people are going to think of me as the creepy guy, because that, like a lot of the stuff that's on the stands right now, kind of does fit in that vein. Hulk is just a full-on horror book now. Crocodile Black is this crime noir story, like kind of a blue-collar crime thing that happens in Baltimore. But there's this almost like a cosmic horror kind of feel to the art. I'm working with an artist named Som from Mumbai. He's incredible. His full name is Somnath Pal, but he goes by Som in the art field. And Som has this amazing way of capturing the grotesque. Like his art shows the grotesque kind of intruding on reality. That's kind of his thing. So if you go through his actual like sketchbooks that he puts online, there'll be an image of like a guy driving, like he has one hand on the wheel and the other hand he's smoking a cigarette, but the smoke is becoming this, the smoke is like changing into this crazy cosmic thing. There'll be another one with a man and a woman kissing. And where the man and woman's faces meet is changing them. Or somebody listening to something on headphones, and the music is changing. Like he has this amazing way of just showing grotesque horror in the midst of these mundane moments, and that is exactly what I needed for this book. So we're a story about mental illness. It's about the COVID period where everyone was kind of sheltering at home and freaking out. No one knew what was coming. It's just a crime noir story that I'm super proud of. So that's the series that's finishing up this week. But it's also the first week of my upcoming Batman and Robin series. So issue number 14 will be the first one of my run, and that comes out Wednesday as well. So you're a Batman fan, you said? So I guess you must have, given your other guest.
That's most of the other most of the books in my collection. Like if you look at my comic book collection, I'd say it's probably 50% is all Batman. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that run with you. How do you approach, because that's another one, he's been around for longer than the Hulk, and we're celebrating his 85th anniversary this year. How did you find coming on to and getting to write for Batman?
Oh man. Well, they just straight up asked me to. I mean, I didn't know it was even in the cards, honestly. Like most of these gigs that I get just amount to me getting jobs I can't say no to. And Batman is absolutely on that list. And man, the fact that it's the Batman and Robin book makes it even better. I've got a young son. He and I are just best fucking friends. Like we always, I don't know. He's just the best thing. He was to get to write the Superman book with Superman as a father was just a joy. And because I mean, Superman is like the perfect father, you know, like he's the father that I always aspire to be like. But Batman is not the opposite of that thing, but certainly not a great dad. You know, he's basically training soldiers rather than raising sons. And he's doing his best. He's just so busted, you know, like he just has too much on his plate, and I can relate to that too. So this actually gets to, this is a chance for me to kind of, I don't know, just kind of, once again, just tell my kid how much I love him in the pages of a comic, and hopefully he goes back and reads it someday and just see how much I love him. There's like Superman is about like my, you know, hopes and dreams for my relationship with him and for America and the world. And it's just, it's like this philosophical statement about, you know, what the best of humanity is, like of what we are capable. And Batman is such a different power fantasy. It's the idea that we can, like, through sheer force of will, we can turn ourselves into this force of nature. Like we can put ourselves toe to toe with gods if we just, you know, if we make ourselves good enough, if we, you know, make ourselves strong enough, fast enough, smart enough, if we prepare long enough and cleverly enough, we can make ourselves as good as anyone. We can fight Superman and win. And that's a very different thing. And so it's that book is kind of about, you know, stress in a way. Like you see Batman just doing, like, pulling out all the stops, doing everything it takes, showing no weakness, experiencing no weakness. Just, it's all about just patching yourself up and getting back out there, and like being mindful of every moment of time, like, you know, bandages and pills, and, you know, like just constantly watching the clock and counting carbs and minutes and microseconds. And, you know, there's just so much in it. I wanted to show what it would be like to be a person like that, but also what must it be like to be the son of someone like that. You know, like being a little boy and trying to live up to your father is one thing. What's that like when your father is literally Batman? You know, like how can you possibly live up to that? So that's a huge part of the story. And there's also, I have to assume this will be the only Batman book I ever get to write. And if that's the case, I want to see everything in it that I want to see in any Batman book. You know, I've got very strong opinions about Batman, as I did with Superman. I want to see a detective story. Yeah. I want Gotham to be rainy and foggy and just dark. I want to see the blimps in the sky, and, you know, I want to have that Gotham vibe that makes it so distinct. And to that end, I've created a new villain named Memento. That is kind of to keep it vague, I don't want to spoil anything, but he's kind of a cross between Aleister Crowley and Jack the Ripper, kind of. He's got this really creepy murder mystery kind of vibe to him. You know, I like the idea of Batman, you know, looking for Jack the Ripper, and this is like a Gotham City, like a timeless Gotham City kind of version of that thing. So yeah, it's very different than the preceding run. It's been that series has been written by Josh Williamson most recently, and it's just a really fun, slick superhero adventure. Like it's very like fun and quippy, and kind of feels almost like a really fun, exciting animated show. And this is so different. This is more what you would expect from a Detective Comics series. And you know, even those other books. Ram V and I are good friends. Ram has been writing Detective Comics most recently, and he did this really beautiful take on Detective Comics that's just coming to an end. And Tom Taylor's about to take over that book, and Chip has been doing amazing work on the other Batman title. But those takes have been so. I've seen a lot of very physical, visual takes on Batman, and you've got to have that stuff. But I just really want to see a proper murder mystery in Gotham. So that's what I'm trying to give readers now.
Yeah, everything you're describing sounds like one of my most cherished runs was the Steve Englehart Marshall Rogers run in the late 70s, where it was that grittiness, it was the detective, and you really saw that side of Batman. So you're hitting all the buttons for me. Everything
Oh, thanks, man.
So far.
Javi Fernandez is doing the art now, and God, he is just crushing it. I cannot say enough good things about him. I think he was on King Spawn most recently.
Okay.
But before that, he did Nightwing for a good bit, and that stuff was amazing. But if you look at his personal stuff, he has been doing like Batman just as fan art or commissions forever. And every time he does, it's just everything he does just screams Batman. That guy is just born to do this book. It's got this beautiful reality kind of feel to it, where it looks so plausible and real, but it's also so dynamic. And in this opening scene, the opening scene of my first issue, I was like, I'm going to give Javi an action sequence that could only be possible in a comic book. Like even with CG, even with unlimited budgets, this could never happen in live action. It's just too difficult. And I gave him the most incredible. Well, he gave us the most incredible car sequence. Like there's this kind of a chase happening on this bridge, and the stuff that happens is just absurd. And he just nails the hell out of it. Like I can't say enough good things about Javi's work. So you'll see. You're about to see what he can do, and you will not believe how good it is.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, the Batman books are something almost out of muscle memory. I just always put those on my pull list. Because I'm such a fan, so I'm very excited to see what you've, especially like I said, with all the boxes you've just ticked off as you're describing what you're doing. And actually, speaking of comic books, our comic book sponsor, Bugs Comics and Games, the owner Larry just sent in a text. He wants to know. He says the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk, right now is a top seller in his store, and it's his personal favorite Marvel series. So,
thanks a ton, Larry. I really appreciate you saying that, man. I'm giving it my absolute best swing. We love that book. And we're all very grateful to be working on it. And I hope you give Batman a shot too, man. Or Batman and Robin, rather. I'm so excited. Please just read it and see what you think. I'm mad excited for that series. But thanks so much for the love on Hulk too. I hope to. Sometimes people ask me how long I'm going to be doing Hulk, and it's like, man, that's a book. I have so many short arcs that I could throw in at any time. I could make up monsters for the rest of my life. So I'll be on that book hopefully for a very long time. So I hope it keeps doing well for you.
Maybe a Peter David-esque run, like a good 10-year span, 15-year span.
Hey, that'd be dope. I won't say no.
And we've just got about a minute left before my outro music is going to kick in here. I didn't get a chance to talk to you too much about it, but I know you've worked on 007. I'm very curious. Yesterday was James Bond Day. The question was going around, who would you like to see tapped as the next James Bond actor? Do you have any insights or thoughts you have on who the next one should be, in your opinion?
Oh, man. I was pretty partial to Daniel Craig, man. I loved him. And I love how he was kind of aggressive, kind of had this chip on his shoulder. I love that. The guy that don't they have a guy picked? I thought there was a guy chosen.
There's rumors that they've talked. They're kind of, and I'm not sure how many they're floating out there just to kind of muddy the waters. But I heard a couple different names, but I've not heard anything definitive from either Michael Wilson or Barbara Broccoli yet. So I'm not, until one of them say something, I'm not taking anything. Last I heard, I think Aaron Johnson was supposed to be the guy, but I don't know if that's official or not. But I do like him. He's done some real stuff, and I like the look of it and everything. In keeping with the Daniel Craig choice, I don't think they would do this. I think he's probably getting a little long in the tooth now, or plus he doesn't look anything like you would imagine Bond to look. But I love just the kind of the aggression and masculinity of Tom Hardy. Yeah. I think that would be kind of a cool choice. Yeah.
But again, it would give us kind of an aggressive, like, don't screw with me kind of a Bond that I really enjoyed in Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
But I don't expect that to be the choice, but that would be something I would like to see.
That would be, and we've just got 20 seconds left. If people want to find you, social media handles and websites, where should we send them?
I am on most places either at my full name or at Phillip K. Johnson. It's 2 L's in Phillip. And I also have a website, phillipkennedyjohnson.com, where I try to keep updated on my stuff.
We could have had another hour of this. Thank you very much for taking the time. Hopefully we can get you back on the air very soon.
Yeah, I'd love that, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks so much for the listeners, too.
Of course, anytime. That's it. Make sure you check out Bugs Comics and Games, our official comic book sponsor. Until next week, my friends.